Hello and welcome to Take Time. I'm your host Patrick Marlette, and let's talk about the Retrospect. Now, if you haven't watched my interview with the brand, I'll encourage you to do so before watching this video. But today I have two Retrospects in from Nodus watches. I love the throwback styling, the moderate pricing. However, I do have a few issues with these watches that I could see improved upon with future models. But as with all my reviews here on the channel, I like to start with the bad and then move on to the good before giving my final verdict on a review item. So let's talk Nodus. Now, each Retrospect measures 40.5 millimeters in width with a 49 millimeter lug to lug end, 14.5 millimeters thick with 22 millimeter lugs. The watch features a screw-down crown with 200 meters of water resistance, a stainless steel case, sapphire crystal, and NH35 movement, all modern niceties you'd expect from a modern dive watch, although the retro aesthetic is a little deceiving. Now, both of our Nodus Retrospects in today come in at about $400 and have a 24-month warranty on purchase. Now, one of my first major bad notes actually has to do with the styling of the case. It is a nice throwback design, but there are a few minor issues. The metal protruding from the case between the lug ends. Now, I've seen this style on many vintage Seiko models, one of Nodus's clear inspirations, but most of those watches were accompanied with a fitted bracelet to complete this look. Now, generally speaking, I prefer to see this extra length of metal protruding from the sides of the case, either straight cut between the two lugs or not there at all, as it looks better if you decide to option out the leather strap or nylon strap these come equipped with for a metal bracelet with straight end links. It just looks better on the watch. And as there isn't a Retrospect that comes with a bracelet currently, I don't see why this extension is here. As a matter of fact, with the leather and nylon options, I would have preferred to just see a clean cut case sans this metal protrusion. Stylistically, it doesn't match the look of the watch. It just feels mistakenly uncut from the casing. Now, while the dial design for the Retrospect series is appealing, I do have a few issues with the overall execution. So the dial is nice on these models, but there's not enough of a distinction between the hour markers on the dial face, particularly the 3, 6, and 9, as they're the same scale as the rest of the hour markers. The only one that's enlarged is the 12 o'clock. I would have preferred to see the 3 and 9 at least enlarged to the same scale as the 12 o'clock marker, so it'd be easier to determine what time it was. Also, I don't like this half plot adjacent the date window down at the 6 o'clock position. It would have been nice to have just removed that and perhaps applied a circular plot of Lume down there instead. I believe that changing the dimensions for the 3 and 9 o'clock position Lume plot and changing that of the 6 o'clock position as well would add more life to this dial. Otherwise, it feels a little bland in its current state. Also, this watch is rather thick for only boasting 200 meters of water resistance. As we've seen on the channel before, it's possible to accomplish a thinner dive watch at greater depths with the same NH35 movement. Now, in my opinion, thinner is almost always better when it comes to tool watches, and that's a personal preference. But I'm certain most of you will agree with me here. Thinner is generally better. Although it is important to note that the case itself is only 12.5 millimeters thick, sans the dome of the sapphire crystal. Now, with all of those bad notes out of the way, I do have a ton of good notes to share on the Retrospect, first and foremost being style. The inward sloping style of the bezels here, which are arguably the selling point for this model series, is very much welcomed. It's reminiscent of earlier Breitling Super Oceans or Rado Captain Cooks, and I'm happy to see it make a return today. Functionally, I believe this styling was meant to reduce glare on the watch face when you're going to read how much time has elapsed on your bezel insert, but today it serves a more utilitarian look and fashion. Now, though I'd like to see a few cosmetic changes to the dial, I believe the handset actually works really well in combination with the current dial and completes the look of the watch overall. The case wears well even with its larger 22mm lugs, which I wasn't a fan of at first, being that the case is only 40.5mm in diameter, but the scale actually complements the watch quite well. Now, I love Seiko movements, so seeing the NH35 inside this Nodus is actually a real great thing. Now, while yes, you can find this movement in more affordable packages, if bargain shopping isn't your goal, you get a lot more in terms of style with the 6 dial options available, to include this white and black model that isn't featured on their site currently. There are a great array of options for those looking for a unique dive watch. The Lume featured on the Retrospects is just fine. It's more than adequate to work throughout the night, and the bezel action here, being 120 click, is actually quite refined, although it does have that tinny sound that's usually associated with more affordable dive watches. Again, this being a pretty affordable watch, I guess you couldn't go without it, and I actually find it quite charming. It's actually a little fun to listen to. Now, before I give you guys my verdict on the Retrospect, of course, I'm going to provide you with a wrist shot so you can tell what this looks like on a 7¼ inch wrist. And personally speaking, I found the brown dial, brown bezel insert to be my favorite amongst the 2 Retrospects I received. It's just more appealing to me. You don't see that many brown watches on the market, and it complements my olive complexion well. Secondly, it complements pretty much all of my attire well at that. And here is the Nodus Retrospect on a 7¼ inch wrist. This is what it'll look like for all of your admirers. And when you are going to admire it, it's going to look a little something like this. So on the supplied leather strap, it's actually a pretty smashing look for the watch. And the buckles themselves are actually nice, signed, and quite refined, unique to this brand. I haven't seen this style of buckle on any other micro yet. And although I would have preferred a bracelet and or rubber strap to come accompanied with these, you can take these in the water with the supplied nylon strap. And speaking of, this is what the Retrospect looks like on the supplied nylon strap. Again, you have a signed buckle on a seatbelt style strap, and it wears very thin and pairs very well with the watch. Again, at first 22mm felt weird with the lug width, but in day-to-day use, it actually looks really good on the watch and is a practical size that you likely have various strap options for. Now, other than a few stylistic choices and redesigns I'd like to see, this watch wears and functions precisely as you'd hope, and for that, Nodus has my Retrospect. I doubt that landed, but I tried, okay? What I'm saying is Nodus makes a decent watch, and I'm excited to see what they produce next, namely the Avalon. Again, if you haven't watched my interview with them, I got a little sneak peek of their future dive watch. It's being called the Nerdle, I believe, because it looks similar to a turtle from Seiko. I actually quite believe that as well. I cannot wait to see that. And if you found this video enlightening or in the least entertaining, feel free to hit that like button. It looks a little something like this guy. If you have friends, forums, or groups interested in picking up a Nodus watch, namely the Retrospect, feel free to share this video with them so they can get another consumer's opinion on the item. And if you're new to the channel, well, welcome. I do videos like this 2 or more times a week. So if watch content is your thing, feel free to hit the subscribe button. It lets me know you're down for the show. And if you'd like to see my videos when they air precisely when they do, you can hit the bell icon just next to that. Again, my name is Patrick Marlett, and thank you for the time.